What's going on, guys? So this is gonna be day 7, I believe. Day 7. If I'm, let me just check real quick. This is gonna be day. It doesn't really matter, but it is day 6. Day 6 of diving deeper. So this is kind of what I was looking at live throughout the day. I had all these tickers on focus. If you want to take a look at this little window over here, this is what I had on focus. It was end phase energy. This was more or less of a long side focus for me. This is the zone that I've had out from the earnings candle all the way to this external high. This external high being now the break of structure, right? Because you have lower high, lower high, lower high, and then you obviously break through. You get a retest and you get a hold of that spot, as well as this little like daily trend line looking thing. That would be like your break of structure spot, right? So that's just kind of what I was looking at for over there. There wasn't really any clean execution spot from over here because solar is a very weird sector. And I actually lost on calls over here whenever I was loading this day on this support, and then it broke down beneath that support. I was down pretty bad, and then I started loading, and then I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to mitigate this trade. And then I tried to mitigate the trade. I was down 8% over here, and then it went and it sold, and it ended up being a red trade. Didn't really care because I did really well last week, but that's a good example of me just not really paying a lot of attention to my plan. And then I sold on like one of these little wicks over here. So that's that. But long story short, I was looking at Enphase Energy all the time on this retest. We have so much support that's built over here. This gap is filled. We have a higher low, a higher low, a higher low, and a higher low, but that's very slow progression, right? And typically whenever you look at slow progression, you sometimes wipe it out. So it just looks like something that looks like this, okay? But then whenever you stall at highs, you're ideally going to take out like this low, right? No matter what. Not necessarily a sweep of that low. I'm just talking about taking out that low, right? So another thing that I do like to really talk about, guys, is what? What do I like to talk about? Well, where are some areas that we couldn't really get over? Kind of over here, right? This is kind of where this little micro-based UTAD, I should say, this little false breakout over here, isn't necessarily going to be the respected resistance. What more and less could be the resistance would be, sorry, it would be more and less like the whole entire bulk area of the level, right? And that's all coming from like right over here, right? So if you want to take a look at the volume shelf, go ahead. I can zoom this out. You can take a look at the volume shelves, I should say. Okay, and then you can kind of see how we're digging into where the heavier volume shelves even are. I'm not a big volume shelf kind of guy. Sometimes I'll pull it up, but not really big. It's just sometimes entries make a lot more sense just from looking at price. And I mean, this one kind of did. It was just a basic trendline bounce. But it happened the next following day. It happened from the last week's close into the new week's open, and then it kind of just ripped right out of nowhere. And it sent us up 6, 7% on the day. We get the secondary sell-off right over here today. If you want to take a look at the low to the high and then start looking at the discounted entry, by all means do so. But likely, guys, what this is going to do is it's going to hold a previous area of like slight demand from where the last chart was, or it's going to hold what we would probably like to call like the range of previous resistance. I'm sorry, the range of previous support that's now turning into another support again after we had the false breakout beneath. That's why the inverse head and shoulders is technically a pattern in trading. I don't love the pattern itself because it's not always going to respect the left shoulder, and chasing the neckline is a terrible fill. But ideally, guys, what this ultimately means is it's going to reclaim the previous old support and then find a higher low and then move, right? And that's kind of what we just saw for the early morning sell on M phase right off the open. But tomorrow is CPI. I couldn't catch this one immediately, and I was thinking to myself live, all right, this is the discounted entry, and then I was really wanting to execute this on like a higher low over here. Given the fact that this is like a daily level, this would be a higher low from this spot over here. This is also a discounted entry. And then this is also, what is this, guys? This is no, what is this? This is no fucking fill of that gap, right? This is kind of stalling in the middle of nowhere. And then what we get was we get a sell off the open the next following day. There's not a lot of crazy, a lot of volume behind it on the sell itself. And then what happens is we start pushing our ways down, and then volume is kind of increasing, and you're getting these divergent volume patterns, right? And then you start getting the relief and the move on nice volume followed by really, really low volume chop, right? So I wanted to execute somewhere within this range, but I just couldn't because I didn't want to catch a lower high on the day and fuck up or anything like that. So what I did was I waited for this to start seeing momentum in a leg, and then I try to just buy a higher low, and then I lost a little bit of focus on it over here, and then I wanted to execute again, but it was still choppy and choppy and choppy, and I didn't really consider this much momentum. It caught my eye, but I didn't consider it a lot of momentum. And then from there, finally, whenever I started to finally see how this was looking like a red to green move, we start getting the volume pouring into the name once again. I execute on this candle over here. Absolutely terrible fill, guys, but what happened here was we broke the current day high ever so slightly, and then there was no true resistance over here from the following day. This is also reclaiming a bearish gap that partially filled, now bullish territory. That's probably why we got the consolidation from this spot right over here. Okay, and then you break above that, you retest that, then you move. 130 could have been the beautiful execution spot, but I kind of just chickened out of it like a little biatch, so that's fine. But yeah, it kind of just moved all the way up into the gap fill. Really nice clean trade right to target. And then I caught only like this was just a little scalp. It was a little bit dumb, but I had another dumb trade, so I kind of wanted to just get it done with one more dumb trade. But I caught it from like here to here, so I caught like $2 on it. Not anything crazy, but yeah, that's that. Disney, I had Disney on focus today, but obviously this didn't go as planned, which is fine. I don't care. I added over here. So I added within this candle, and then I added the higher low, and then I added the support. And this was a serious position. This was a position that was on full size. I was saying, you know what? I'm going to risk the 102.27 area, which was this previous day high, or I'm going to risk the previous day low, or the PM session higher low, I should say, into the close. The close really intrigued me. And then what happened was we got the gap down and we retested this high over here, and then we started holding it with like inside bars, and then I started to buy calls as soon as I saw the momentum. I actually went relatively green up here. I was up probably 15, 17, at most 20% on next week expiry, but then I kind of just wanted this to break this high or start flagging out and then continue its way higher. Obviously, right off the open, the market gap down and then plummeted, right? So whenever I was looking at this along like with confluence to Disney, I was like, oh my gosh, okay, this is a little bit sketchy over here. If I do happen to go red, I'm just gonna buy the support one more time, but I'm gonna buy it a little bit lower if it gets bought up. It did get bought up, but what happened was it popped back up again. I went green, and then as soon as I started seeing this stall for potentially a lower high now, with potentially like a little 5 minute head and shoulders pattern over here, and can't and it's not really able to get above the opening print with momentum, tells me that that's a very shallow higher low and retest. This is more and less going to have to bleed back down into my accumulation zone that's happening all down here. We do have an external low. I would honestly want that to be taken for me to look at Disney again. And I've talked about my plan for how many days on end about Disney, where I would really like to be trading this one from. And it's going to be beneath this low. So my zone right now would be from here remove this, because this is only going to make the window a little bit tighter for me to execute off of, which is going to make the risk reward better because my stop is tighter. 100 bucks and 27 cents down in the $99 and 14 cents. That's kind of like the little execution spot I'm looking for Disney. I also had a Schwab short, and I bought some smaller exposure yesterday. So what happened yesterday was, okay, we're getting very seller dominant patterns over here. So when I was looking at this daily chart on Sunday, I was like, oh my gosh, okay, this is a financial that looks really weak, right? We did get a really nice move in the 10-year yield on Friday of last week. And then I was looking at the financials. I was like, oh my gosh, okay, this looks like they're primed for downside, maybe to retest some certain levels. I don't really know, but let's just wait and see what goes on. Okay. Um, I was looking at, swing low, swing high, looking at what the retests were. We did retest equilibrium, so anything that would have moved higher, I would have liked to execute it above this high, but that's not really what I was looking for. Sometimes I'll pull out the moving averages, I'll pull out like a break of structure look, um, and what do we get? I mean, this is our last higher low before we failed our higher lows. This was our last one. We retested it here on Friday of last week. Let's go into the 1 hour and start looking at Friday's action. Let's start looking at the really low exhaustion volume here come Monday. And what does this look like to you guys? This is a simple gap down, and what is it doing is it's covering progression from the gap down, and there is absolutely no volatility, no volume coming into this Monday. You can see how there isn't a singular spike in volume throughout the whole entire day. The tape was never, ever, ever strong, and all this is really doing is kind of not finding a seller, not finding a buyer. Buyers are a little bit more prominent than sellers, and boom, it moves up and it trickles its way higher for then potentially setting up a lower high trade opportunity. So whenever I looked at this, I shorted it a little bit too early, which was over here, right off the open. I got a little bit too aggressive on this trade over here. And funny enough, I didn't make no money on this trade. I think I made a little bit of money, but yeah, guys, what are the notable levels whenever you go to the hourly time frame? Well, this is all a segment of price where you're getting a lower high from. This is the previous support that's failing. So where's the very critical level that we need to essentially fail, which is also a level over here. It's the hourly support level that was a previous support, also was a previous resistance. What happened? Well, we're potentially looking to fail that right off the open, given the fact of yesterday's volume, everything like that, right? So I was executing and buying puts on next week expiry into these pops, into this up here. I did buy a little bit into close the previous day, but not anything too crazy. And then I started getting a little bit more serious over here. Okay. Um, so that went relatively green, but not enough for me. Not gonna lie. Um, yeah, I mean, not really the smartest decision by me, but yet again, I trade the chart sometimes, man. I don't sit there and claim wins to claim wins because I need to, talk about I do this and I do that and I do this. Like no, I don't I trade I trade what I think I should be trading, not just a consistent 1-to-1 RR just to claim a win and be like, "Oh, I'm the best." I could do that all day if I wanted to, but not doing it. So that's sometimes what happens. That's sometimes part of the game, guys. Stocks don't move perfectly at all times. And whenever you understand that and really, really, really uh, connect the dots of price movement volatility and the name volatility on the name you're trading, along with your expiry and your time, then that's going to help you decipher whether you have to take profit or whether you hold the trade. And my read was a little bit off there. I was in next week expiry and a name that has a very low ATR. It's not known for being volatile to one particular side. I also have to understand that price is pushing through a bullish imbalance area, and this could also be looking for some sort of lower high, or I'm sorry, higher low from higher low, and higher low. I mean, those are all just possibilities, and you don't want to have too many possibility thoughts within your head whenever you trade. But there's no reason as to why I couldn't be taking profits here down here, especially given the fact that this is also the day before CPI. I think I took like very minimal profits just to cover my little tiny puny loss on Disney over here, and then I just rage added Disney again. I rage added Disney like right over here. So I added like on this little pop beneath the support and then the move higher, and then I tried to catch a little bit more momentum. This is not a legitimate trade. I don't even want to talk about it. And then I stopped as soon as I seen this little like 5 minute gap candle. Like I just didn't care. I took McDonald's. Dude, this is such a shitty fucking trading day, but it is what it is. So yeah, I took McDonald's. Why would I be taking McDonald's, guys? Does anybody know? Does anybody know why I would be taking McDonald's? Well, let's go to the daily chart and you'll be able to see this. So the daily chart is a massive gap. What is off this massive gap? A lot of volume. And what is also off this massive gap and volume and yeah, very harmonic volume patterns for looking for a higher low and then maybe a little relief trade would be we're in a previous support. We're in a other This is a different range of support, and we did have a really strong sell side move, but we're getting strong buying volume coming right back into play off of that sell side move, right? And we found a lower high. Now, is that lower high going to be the lower high that's put in? I don't know. So what did I call this? A relief trade, right? So whenever you find the relief trade, what does relief mean? Well, you could be in sell side structure. A lower high could come at any time. So where do you have to catch this? You have to catch this where the best potential fills will be. And I didn't do that. I stared at it and I watched it and I chickened out of it again. Let's go to the 5 and you're going to be able to see this over here. This is 9:30 right off the open. Really nice volume right off the bat. And then we started to get this little trickle lower into the bottom of that gap fill over here. We did fill it. We started finding a buyer off of it. I could have easily bought this pullback. And I did. This is so bad, man. Oh my, I'm embarrassed to talk about this, but like I have to. Um, Bought the pullback, went green, wasn't satisfied with my green. A higher high and in the current high day that made a new high is starting to fail. We start finding a little slight pullback. I thought it might be another little bull flag. It wasn't. It pulled back into discount where my previous fill was. That was my trailing. Then I like added to it. I didn't add to it over here though. That was the issue. I added up here. Wait, no, it was on the opening. Yeah, so over here, and then it chopped around. Then something happened to my options. Or no, I added over here. I'm sorry. I added over here. So I averaged up into my position. I was ever so slightly green over here. Then it moved higher. Then it started moving lower again. Then I said, fuck this, I'm out. It was just not the best. I mean, the execution wasn't bad, right? I would take this trade all day long, but it's McDonald's. It doesn't always have that fresh, clean volatility behind it. Sometimes it's really bad, right? So whenever that happens, guys, what I typically do, and I would have added more size onto it and full size onto it over here if I could get a retest of this previous support failure breakdown into the bottom of a bull gap, followed by harmonic volume patterns that are leading us into a little bull flag right into the golden pocket. I would have went full size with a 253 risk. And then what my target would have been, sadly, and it probably never would have hit, would have been 255. I mean, I'm just going to be realistic here. So yeah, that's kind of what I was looking at live. I stared at Google, I'm not gonna lie. It's all good. Completely and totally stared at it though. You guys know I've been shorting on this over here, all stemming from this little hourly bear gap. that's been finding a strong seller ask. We opened there today. I was looking for a sweep of this high. Never got it. Boom. All the way back down into the low. Swept the low of that high volume candle. What do we get? Reversal. What do I talk about a lot? Drawing liquidity to a high volume bar. Great example of that right over here. So that's that. Um, Apple was absolutely disgusting today and kind of took a lot of focus off of other names. So hold on, guys. I'll be back real quick. So I had to spit. But yeah, it took a lot of focus off of some other names, and was the really strong outlier mover for the day. I was looking at buying the dip on ENPH. I don't really like touching this one just because of where it's at on the chart and how extended it really is. It's like, I don't know, I just feel like I'm gonna catch some sort of falling knife all the time, and then it's not gonna stop, you know. But it's really nice volume patterns. It's really nice, structurally clean. So I could have caught this one as well. This one was a little bit cleaner of a trend, a little bit clearer of a picture. But yeah, going back into Apple, guys, I talked about this one, how it was going to be looking like some sort of short focus, but we got news into the close on this day, right? So whenever you're looking at this and you say, oh, okay, we got big time news, and then we got like really heavy volume into the close. SPY was completely divergent off of Apple right off the open. It was really weird and hard to catch. So was QQQ. And then we had the Apple event this week. So there was a lot blocking this setup, if that makes sense. Could I have taken a break in a base and a go off the all-time high? Yeah, but that's also kind of why it's set up over here, guys. It's one thing you have to understand, that these things are not easy to catch, and they're more and less kind of just blindly trading and guessing at all-time highs. And in the long run, it's really not going to help, like at all, if you want me to be honest. So yeah, there isn't a lot on the table right now, but I have to make count. I have to make something count. I also did stare at Intel today. Another really embarrassing fold on my end. And I'm not like mad about this kind of shit. Days like that happen. It was a simple higher low, guys. Off of the level that I talked about yesterday. If you guys remember anything about that close. What's significant about this close? Well, what I had was this. A resistance with this little gap being claimed, rebid from the low, and then a higher low off of it. Higher low off the golden pocket. Here to here, 15-minute base right off that spot. A little bit weird, but yeah, it is what it is. So I'll be back tomorrow looking to wrap the week on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday because I only have realized on Ford and Google this week over 100% on each. So the Google short I held over the weekend, and then the Ford long on Monday. So we'll see what the rest of the week brings.